Hey everybody, it's Dave Espinosa again. David Manuel Espinosa, David Espinosa Jr. There's my watermark right there. I know you all are thinking I'm freaking nuts, and I might be nuts, but I've said it before that I may not be as nuts as I once thought you thought I was. I might be more nuts. And if you go back and watch some of my videos, I know I had a couple recent interesting things, but I want to let you know that I have literally called the FBI many times. I have a couple reports with the San Diego Police Department filed. There are very real situations for which I was very, very violently assaulted physically by people, and so if I sound crazy during those situations, absolutely I was crazy, because I've been going a little bit with having been attacked very physically, very materially on other social media websites that you may not be aware of or have access to. Even I don't have access to them because I don't know where they are, these social media websites. There is a whole dark web of things that unfortunately I did not ever go onto or ever intend to be posted about within some of these social media sites, and I am doing this because some of it has very incredibly affected my career. It's been a bit of a defamation type of situation, and so I'm having to regroup and kind of reinvent myself, and I'm doing it the best way that I can. And whenever there are these situations, even though some people know exactly what I'm talking about, there will be an air of presence, an air of confusion that is very difficult for people to accept. But I want to reassure that those who I have may be affected, because I am presenting some of this in a very public domain, in a very way that's very vulnerable, in a way that is very sometimes misunderstood, because not everybody knows exactly everybody's situation, right? We are stuck in this. In my opinion, we are stuck in this social media quagmire of feeling connected, which is a great thing, because social media, when Facebook and Instagram, we had this really amazing, all of a sudden, post, what was it, MySpace? Post MySpace, which actually was, I would love to go back to a MySpace day when people were posting all kinds of artistic things, like their music and their fashion and what they were doing as far as hobbies and stuff go. And now I know it's changed a little bit somewhat recently, but there was a period of like, okay, what are we looking at here? How many times do I need to know what I look like as a farm animal, or as a, here's your face, or here's your identity if you were to mix two celebrities and their pet, hamster, whatever. I mean, how many times do we need to play farmhouse animal, like, mix and match your facial expressions game, which is all really just a data mining process. Anyway, if I could implore you for a minute, all that put aside for a minute, I want to go down that road, but I have come up with a, by the way, my Instagram, Off Limits 333, was supposed to be kind of like my journey into possibly another kind of after school job, or after day job, which would have eventually hopefully evolved into something a bit more journalistic, because of my background as a writer, as a my education in philosophy and theology, and this whole new like bit of sarcastic sketch comedy, kind of meme type of humor, which is not always understood totally by some people, because what I was saying is social media has given this idea, especially I think in the last few years, because I've lost touch with family, I've lost touch with close friends, because we think we're given this impression that we're connected because you like something or because you commented on something, and it's given us this, in my opinion, it's given us this false, like almost evidential thing of like, we're connected, we're so connected, but all I did was like your post, all I did was comment on a couple things, and you feel connected, but there's a whole life that all of us are living and that all of us are enjoying and loving, and also that some of us are also not enjoying and not loving, but because we don't know how to reach out, because we don't know how to post, or we don't know how to reach out to a friend because our relative died and we need a bit of real life care and concern, or a hug, or just something a bit more than the typical just I like, or I sent a heart, or a smiley face, or an emoji, or a dancing little whatever that says I'm connected, which is great. It's great to send those things, because those things really do make a difference. It is amazing how some of these things make a difference, but far more than those things are the real touches that people can give. Anyway, in light of all that, because of this new era of communications and reality that we're in, with a whole new meta, Facebook has changed their design to meta, and these things. There is a real meta out there, people. Facebook didn't invent meta, by the way. God did. The universe did. Somebody invented meta. We have a physical reality, and we have like this other like woo-woo reality that nobody ever wants to accept. And America has grown so cold with religion and spirituality that it's something that is very dear to my heart, because being a philosopher and a theologian, that's my education, which didn't really seem to do a whole lot for me, because coming out, I had to completely erase that past, because you come out as gay or homosexual, and now I got to give up all that beautiful spirituality, and then recently I've just had some life experiences that say, okay, I need to reinvigorate and touch base with that stuff, because when you don't have your religion now, and now that I am out as a homosexual or gay, now even my own gay plight and things that I struggled with within my gay community, now they rejected me and totally have thrown me to the side because of stigma, because these are not things that we do as homosexuals. This is not in line with our LGBTQ HIJKLMNOP charter, because you're not a perfect gay, or you're not a perfect, And so I found myself a bit on the edge and the periphery of, what the hell am I supposed to be then? Where do you go for real understanding? And then we reach out to social media, and we try to find hugs and care and concern through these things. And then you get is a like, you get a touch. And those are amazing, like I said. But nothing ever is a substitute for the real, true connection that you get from friends and communities that are able to do those things. And I am not perfect. I have not been perfect at reaching out and such, but I did reach out in some ways, and so I'm getting very clear right now on my communications. So if I could say that my education now is in theology and philosophy. I have over 20 years of real estate experience, which I like to think that I was a great realtor. I wasn't always good at sales. I wasn't always good at sales in the sense of hardcore, competitive closing. Although now I can close like no freaking other. I sold, before real estate, I sold orthopedic medical supplies. I sold screws and shoulder implants. I sold total knee, shoulders, and hips. I sold for a company called Arthrex and some others. I sold the screws, the sutures, the needles, and other things that go to replacing and fixing your joints, the moving parts, your knees, shoulders, hips, and feet, and even knuckles. I sold artificial knuckles. So now I have this really amazing, rich history in sales, with all the philosophy, and in the last few years, with everything that I've been going through, I have developed just an absolute, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, IMHO for you abbreviation lovers and emoji lovers. IMHO, in my humble opinion, I've become quite good at communication, and I'm still honing in and fine-tuning that, which is why I actually wanted to put this out here. This is a disclaimer for this that I'll put at the bottom of my email because of some things that have caused, I believe, a very, very what could I say, almost criminal sometimes disruption in the way that we look at reality, either face to face, like in a store or with our friends, or by text. That is confusing. That doesn't allow us to communicate, even in this meta field, in real ways. And so, here's my my shot at a disclaimer that you see at the bottom of emails, especially with anything that's in relation to legal stuff or otherwise. You see a disclaimer in the fine print, but here's my disclaimer. My personal David Espinosa disclaimer. I started a .com. It's called Ishby Corp, or Ishby Industries. Ishby being a play on my last name Espinosa. Espy was my nickname in high school and college, and so Ishby was my personal play on my nickname. Partially the ish, ish. You know, when someone says, "Oh, when are we getting together tonight?" "Oh, let's get together at 7:00 ish." You know, because I like the ish. It's kind of like, okay, I'm running late, but not too late. Or how does this look? Well, it looks great ish. Just make a few little. I love the ish because it gives you that flexibility, not that super hardcore, hard line, black and white. Like it's got to be this or it's got to be that, but then it's also, there's a little bit of play in there, and so but then we fine tune it until we get together on time and we're here and present. So I started Ishby Corp, which would be kind of a consultative profession, which I'm fine tuning. Hopefully, I'll have my elevator speech down soon, but it is primarily a communications company that deals with almost mediating between two parties that can't seem to come to an agreement or can't seem to communicate, almost like an escrow company. And having been in real estate, I realize there's so beautifully why there's not why sellers and buyers never ever get into the same room together. The buyer of a house and the seller of a house never meet each other, or don't traditionally, until maybe after the close of sale, because it's such an emotional process. And you can apply this to your relationships with your partners, wives, significant others, to your veterinarian, to your housekeeper, because there are sometimes very sensitive and vulnerable topics that are hard to communicate about. And sometimes you just need someone to help you get on the right track of communication so that you can communicate directly with each other. I think it's always best when you can get in a form or a type of communication with the other party in a way that is direct, so you can understand, even if it's messy at first. And sometimes you need somebody who is a communicator or a connector who can help you bridge that gap initially, especially when it's regard to money, emotional relationships, romantic relationships, or strictly pragmatic relationships that deal with strict or very valuable goods, services, where the emotional part may be difficult because of cultural things. Like if you have someone who is Muslim or Islamic trying to communicate with someone who's Christian on the sale of an object, or the discrepancies that are in a document, or the fact that this neighbor doesn't like what's happening with that neighbor, and because of cultural things they can't seem to get the emotional part out of it and do strictly pragmatic communications. That's where I'm going with this, my new company called Ishby. And so here is my email communication disclaimer. Disclaimer. This communication is strictly and confidentially intended for only the recipients and the sender, David Espinosa, who is also the sole owner and sole authorized user of the following email addresses. And then I list my email addresses. Unless indicated or otherwise prescribed, communication herewithin is to be read and or understood in the literal and actual English, in parentheses, standard English, in the actual English language translation from a first person tense and without wrongful intent for any physical or material harm or injury. Never act on what may be a modern day American or other cultural social influence to read into or to try to uncover any hidden or unclear code, meaning, or underlying conveyance. Make no assumptions. When attempting all communication, 1. electronic, written, text, or verbal. 2, face-to-face, in-person streaming of any kind. 3, in ink or print, written or typed. 4, audible with regards to verbal or voice. When attempting all communication of any of the above, mentioned by, with, and through all device types or methods of message, telecommunications, and transmissions, either electronic, meta, or otherwise, please always verify and understand however is consistent, reasonable, and or reasonably necessary or contextual for the relationship you and I, the sender, share, that for me, always, I hold with the utmost fiduciary, personal, professional, and or contractual duties the responsibility of confidence, regardless of temporary or necessary environmental conditions. When possible, elevate the essence of this protocol as is deemed necessary. When we connect for the first time, I trust universal forces have always the highest and best intentions for the greater good in mind, as do I, should our communications ever affect the world around us, irregardless and irrespective of what may or may not be the cultural norm or an ever unachievable perfection, striven for, but always with the understanding, as is our goal, consensually having calculated individually our risk with regard to government policy, local standards of life, living, and how we treat each other in the electronic, physical present, or metaphysical fields of reality. That's what I want to say at the end of my email, just to let everybody know. And I would love to have any feedback if anybody is in communications or otherwise as to what you think of that. But if it's understandable, if it's too wordy or fluffy, but I'm basically trying to say what I'm saying is what I'm saying. That I own my email addresses, and that I don't want ever anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying when it comes to actual physical, written, or real communication. I do a lot of so. There's some comedy and stuff that I'm doing here. This just playing with it a bit, which actually does play into my communication style. The thing is that whenever I do any kind of anything that might be misunderstood as or understood as analogy or metaphors, I do it in a completely absurd way. And the reason is because I want people to understand that when I am real, you know I'm real. This is very real. I posted something this morning with me having my coffee and my cigarette, and I'm, talking about, the ladder of success. It's absurd. It's absurdity. It's absurd. But there is a message in there, but I'm using a very absurd and kind of fun and goofy way to maybe just show my humanness. Whenever I'm communicating in a very real way, this is what it looks like. This is what communication in a very real and true way looks like. You will always know when Dave is being Dave, the communicator, in a very, like I'm saying here, in a transmission of contextual, necessary, responsible, fiduciary, professional way, versus a bit of a meme, fun, lighthearted way of just saying, hey, I'm doing what we do on social media. I'm just being silly. And so anyway, I'm already at 18 minutes here. I'm trying to get this across. And I know that we all have a 15 second, 15 second attention deficit disorder situation going on. So anyway, David Espinosa. I'm David Espinosa, David Manuel Espinosa, trying to get possibly a new business plan off the ground here that I've been working on, literally. I've been working on for a couple years at least, because of this super creative brain that I have that I just need to either learn how to implement into a reinvented real estate career or a new career in a consultation business of communications and negotiations, mediations, and also possibly journalistic investigation.